Welcome to the Ricardo Del California Show. My name is Ricardo, and today we have Tyler Davidson of the U.S. Navy helicopter pilot. Tyler, welcome to the show. It's good to see you, sir.
Yeah, happy to be here.
We first met, I think, through San Diego Scuba Squad.
Yep.
Looking for a dive buddy, and we've been diving for the last few months. And you have definitely an interesting career. Tell us a little bit about your career.
Yeah, guess it all started going to Naval Academy preparatory school, going there, and then that was kind of like the segue I had into going into Naval Academy. Great experience there. I thoroughly enjoyed most every moment of it. From there, I was able to select pilot. After you choose pilot, you'll then go down to Florida where you do your first initiation of flight school, essentially.
Right.
So did all that, a lot of ground stuff. Got to fly the Cessna 172, learning how to fly just in general aviation.
For those who don't know what a Cessna is,
Yep.
What is a Cessna?
Yeah, so it's just your basic single prop engine aircraft. It'll have the upper wings, but there are plenty of people who also train on Pipers. They're essentially the same thing, little single engine aircraft with lower wings. From there, that's kind of like just your initial understanding of what aviation is and everything. And then I went out to Corpus Christi, Texas. Out there I flew the T6. It's essentially, it's the same idea. It's a single engine aircraft, but it goes significantly faster. I think it goes up to like 320 knots.
Okay.
It's probably around 400 miles per hour or so. Very fun aircraft to fly, and from there, after you finish that school, you get to choose which direction you want to go from there, whether or not it's jets or helicopters or the large maritime aircraft, similar to what you would see for general commercial aviation whenever you fly somewhere.
Gotcha.
And I chose the helicopters, so from there, advanced, and after advanced, now I'm out here in San Diego for a short time before going to Guam.
Tell me a little bit about the backstory. So, from Maine, right?
Yeah.
You finished high school and you have an opportunity to go to college.
Yeah.
How did you end up going to Annapolis? How did this all start?
Yeah, so, going through high school, always knew I wanted to go to college, knew I couldn't afford going to college, didn't quite understand the student loan system and how to do that. I know my mother, she eventually got her associate's degree, and I knew that she had a bunch of debt and everything. I didn't want to be in the same boat. So then I started thinking about enlisting into the military, actually, and from there I was planning on just doing my 4 or 5 years and then going to college afterwards on the GI Bill. It seemed like the best route for me.
Right.
But after looking into colleges and military side, I found I just basically stumbled upon the fact that there's these things called service academies. You have West Point, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Naval Academy. And from there I just I looked in all of them. I thought Naval Academy was the best fit. I put in my application, and fortunately I had a great wrestling career in high school.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, wrestler becomes pilot.
Yeah. there's a few of us out there. But yeah, and so I basically stumbled across it. It's a very weird application system. It's not your stereotypical college application system. None of the counselors can help me out. None of them quite understood it. So it was a process getting in, and I'm also the first person in my family to graduate high school and college. So it was all very new, but it was all very exciting, and I just knew I wanted to get out of Maine and see the world.
Right. Now, young guy from Maine ends up going to Annapolis. Yeah. I imagine the competition was pretty difficult getting there.
Yeah, it is, and for that I do thank my wrestling coach substantially, just because he did have a few contacts and everything. He was able to get my foot in the door.
Right.
And from there I had good grades and everything, so that definitely helped. And just the combination of being well acquainted with many different clubs in my high school and everything, kind of got my foot in the door. You have to meet with senators and do interviews with them. So
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's not just a particular, application you have to fill out. I mean, this is somewhat political, the process.
It is.
To get in there.
It is.
So you've been in the service how long?
If we count my stint at the Naval Academy, it's been about 7, 8 years since graduating and getting my officership. basically becoming an officer and everything. It's been about 3 years now. Most of that time has been spent in flight school.
Gotcha. So you go to Annapolis.
Yes.
You graduated with a bachelor's in.
Bachelor's in robotics engineering and a minor in Mandarin Chinese.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, speaking some Chinese.
我的名字戴维森，你好，我喜欢狗。Basically, I just said, hi, my name's Davidson, hello, and I like dogs. I'm very
Who doesn't
low
like
level
dogs?
English, you know. I mean, very low level of
Chinese.
Mandarin Chinese. 4 years studying it, and some of that was in Singapore and in China.
Fantastic.
But still, it's a hard language.
And you are heading east eventually, going to Guam.
I am, yes.
Right.
I'm very excited for that.
Great diving out there, warmer waters.
Great diving, and the for the job that I'll be doing out there, it's going to be primarily search and rescue. Very excited for that. There's a lot of opportunity for it there. It's kind of like one of the services we provide for Guam.
Okay.
We're the only search and rescue asset out there. So we end up getting a lot of the civilians that end up jumping off a waterfall or something like that and hurting themselves, and they're 5 miles in on this hike. They can't get out by.
So the
traditional
Coast Guard's
means.
not available out
It's
there.
not.
It's the Navy's doing the job.
Yeah.
So you've been in the service essentially about 7 years with the Naval Academy.
Yep.
Okay. So what I'd like to know is there's a lot of great services. I even found out now we recently have the Space Force.
Yeah.
Was not aware of that. That's new.
Yeah.
Why the Navy? Great branch. My nephew's Seaman First Class, and he's on the Mount Whitney right now out in Europe.
So I just started looking at the service academies and trying to figure out which one was the best fit at the time. Again, big wrestler, very motivated youth, and I was thinking about going special forces. So I was kind of looking at the service academies in regards to that, and the Navy SEALs is kind of what turned me on to it originally.
Mm-hmm.
And then after getting into the academy, I realized I never even thought of being a pilot, because I just didn't think that would be an option, didn't know how somebody would even get into that field.
Sure.
And after getting my feet wet into the Navy side and learning that the Naval Academy actually graduates about a quarter of its class as pilots.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's one of the, after you get in, it's very difficult to get in, but I think about a 10% acceptance rate.
Into Annapolis.
Into Annapolis. But once you get your feet in the door, and as long as you keep your head down into the books and make right choices, it's a pretty smooth sailing path into the pilot career. So after I found out all that, I was like, yeah, like the job seemed very enticing to me.
Yeah, it's very exciting career being a pilot, being in the military, getting to serve the country. A lot of great perks. Going into the service, you ended up going to helicopters. Now, what interested you in going into helicopters, say, than jets?
Yeah, so it was primarily the mission sets, the fact that you could go helicopters and do search and rescue and humanitarian missions, providing aid to like areas that have recently experienced a natural disaster.
Okay.
All that was very enticing.
Obviously, you're flying a helicopter at this time. What kind of equipment are you operating? I think that's, if I said that correctly. What kind of helicopter are you flying?
So I fly H-60 Sierras. Their essential primary mission is going to be the search and rescue, vertical replenishment, and maritime interdiction.
Now, when you say vertical replenishment, can you expand a little bit on that?
We need a way to transport cargo to and from ships, essentially, right?
Correct.
And so whenever one of the ships needs a piece of equipment or sailor transportation or anything like that, we're kind of responsible. That's essentially what vertical replenishment is. You just you lower down a cargo hook, pick up the cargo, and bring it from ship to ship.
Okay. Now, obviously, this is more service geared in the sense of search and rescue, replenishing people perhaps in combat. So you kind of chose this route over, let's say, being a combat pilot.
Yes. The combat aspect wasn't really very enticing to me. It's definitely a interesting path for those who decide to go through it, and the jet flying was absolutely very appealing at first. But the lifestyle, and in terms of having the family and everything like that, the helicopters just seemed a little bit more capable of doing both for a long term.
I understand. Now, for those of us who don't know what H-60 is, I'm assuming this is similar to what we see a Seahawk or a Blackhawk? Similar?
It is very similar to the Black Hawk. It is essentially the same aircraft for all intents and purposes. There's a couple minor differences, but essentially we adopted the Black Hawk and did a couple changes and then made it into the Seahawk.
Okay. So you've been in the service now, like we said, for about 7 years.
Correct.
How did this change your life?
Drastically, honestly. It's interesting. I've got 4 younger brothers, so it's interesting to see their paths in life and everything. But if I didn't go into the service, I foresee that I probably would not have left Maine. Just tends to be the culture there. I've been able to travel the world for all intents and purposes. Europe, China, Singapore. You've been able to understand different cultures, and I think when you start going to these different places, you really start understanding America's and the American way of thinking isn't the only way of thinking. You start to be able to get a little bit more empathy for these other countries in different manners by just exposing yourself.
And I think being able to travel abroad on the Navy's dime and not your own, so to speak,
Yeah.
seeing all these wonderful places. As far as the journey, I want to talk a little bit and focus on officer candidates at school. Obviously, that's a tough process. Some of our viewers might be interested in going to the military, one of the many branches we have. How did you make it through it, both mentally and physically, to get through that experience? How long is OCS? How many weeks?
The OCS system is specifically for people not go to the Naval Academies, actually. There's different routes to become an officer. Go to ROTC throughout college, and that essentially puts your foot in the door. You can also become an officer after college, not having done ROTC. You have to apply still and everything, and then you would still go through OCS, Officer Candidate School. So the way it works for the Naval Academies, we have a freshman year essentially, which is where we'd experience a lot of the similarities, and I wouldn't say it's physically hard. It's going to be physically demanding, but it's not. Anybody physically can make it through. It's more about the mental state, right?
Okay.
So as long as you go in with a good positive attitude, expect it to be hard. It's gonna suck sometimes, but just remembering that this is not the permanent state of life at that point. It's just to get you indoctrinated into the system and for you to understand the camaraderie, the unity, and everything that it required to make a good team, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to many of our service members, and I'm very grateful for your service, of course, thank you very much. Going into that, there's a sense of family that I noticed going into the service, and some of these friendships you might carry for the rest of your life, even until if you decide to do the 20 or more in your case. You talk about the mental component. What do you have to do? To kind of get yourself through those 4 years before you kind of got into where you are currently? Because there was a light at the end of the tunnel. You were going to have some sort of service option, pick up a paycheck, a pension down the road. There's all these wonderful options that happen. But for you, like mentally, what did it take? How did you keep going when sometimes you might have felt like, you know what, the heck with this, I feel like giving up. This is just too much. This is too overwhelming. How did you push through during those tough times?
Yeah, so the best piece of advice I could give anybody would be to just not focus on yourself, right? You want to, and that's kind of what creates that camaraderie and everything. Right. When you're down on your luck and you're just in a really bad mental state, it's important to kind of get out of that self-thinking, self-absorption attitude, and remember that there's people, to your left and right that are going through the exact same thing, and trying to help them, like knowing that they're going to be feeling the same way as you are. You're not special in that sense. Everybody's having a hard time with this, so focusing on other people and helping them get through it is what essentially will help you get through it the best.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, because what you're doing essentially is you're encouraging one another, lifting each other up emotionally and mentally, maybe even spiritually in a sense, as you're going through this process. So when you finally made it to graduation day, right, can you describe that moment for me? Yeah,
it was very eerie, right? You go through 4 years of this school. It's pretty intensive. It gets a little bit better the longer you're in there, but I think it's part of the whole learning process. My family was there, and my little brother at the time had just enlisted, and he was there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he was Navy side as well. And yeah, just seeing the family there, you feel a sense of pride for sure, and accomplishment and obligation, just knowing you're about to go into a service that isn't necessarily, it's not all about you. It's about, again, as you were training, it's about the people to your left and right, and it's about the people you serve.
Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the things that's, especially in what you do, there is definitely, like we talked earlier, there's the humanitarian part as well. Some search and rescue may occur
Yes.
out there working in Guam or wherever that you're stationed. Even if there was anything, God forbid, like Hurricane Katrina and you were in that area, you guys would be working probably in conjunction with the Coast Guard, right?
Yes.
For search and rescue and operations as such. The Navy has totally changed your life, like you said. You're the first high school graduate, first college graduate, and your brother, is he still in the service at this time?
Yeah, so he is just getting out.
Okay.
He got married and has a kid on the way.
Oh, congratulations.
So he decided to not continue on that path, and he's returning home. I have another little brother who's actually just now starting to enlist, though. He's 19 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's 4 of you total.
4 of us.
So is the last
or
one?
5 of us total, 4 younger.
Okay. At least 3 of you calling.
Yes, yeah.
If you think the other 2 are going to go, or we don't know.
4 of us. Well,
It's serving the country. It's really the world, if I might say. You are also a man, not only a pilot, a helicopter pilot, but you also fly Cessnas.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. I think we were talking about possibly giving me a ride one time. I'll chip it for gas, of course. You can fly me home. I'm not too far from our local airport. But what I would love to know is, and for our guests, beyond the uniform, beyond the Navy job that you have a few more hobbies. Of course, we've dove together.
yeah.
So you're a pretty avid diver. You're actually at rescue diver status.
Yes.
But you also enjoy rock climbing. What are some of these activities that you do? Because you're a very active man.
Yeah, so you kind of named the 2 big ones in my life right now is going to be the scuba diving, the rock climbing. I like to say that my hobby is finding new hobbies, essentially.
My hobby is finding new hobbies. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a new trend. It could be a t-shirt saying. Right.
Yeah. So,
very good.
Yeah, it's just that process of like learning something new is what excites me.
Right.
And the reason I choose those hobbies, like diving right now and rock climbing, those are essentially big ones in my life, pretty consistently, just because they allow you to explore different aspects of the world that some people don't ever really get to see otherwise.
Sure. And as far as where you're going, you've traveled the world. I'm going to be traveling some more. In Guam, there's going to be some amazing diving, amazing reefs out there, like we've talked about. As far as going out there, we've talked, and it looks like you're bringing somebody with you, I think.
I am, yes. It's my girlfriend. I've known her for about a year now. Just coming on to a year. She is crazy enough to want to move out to San Diego and even Guam, which is very exciting, and it's opening up a very new aspect of life.
Well, I mean, that's fantastic, taking this journey to a beautiful place,
Yes.
such as Guam, and I believe she was going into education.
Yes, correct. Education. Probably going to be doing a teaching job out there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll teach a little about reef conservation, because the coral reefs are dying. So tell her, if you will, tell us, our guests, if they're interested in going into the service.
Yeah.
In your case, this was the Navy. How should they prepare themselves, and why is the Navy a good option?
So I'd say if you're thinking about going into the military service whatsoever, the big thing there is it really doesn't matter which side you go on, officer or enlisted. I think it's a great career path for either one, and they both open up education opportunities, which, if that's important to you, by all means, take advantage of those options available to you. And in terms of preparation, though, I would say just make sure that, physically, physical fitness wise, is anybody can get to the standards required for military service, and just getting out there practicing. And I think it's more of a mental attitude. When you're going into it, just remember you're going into it for a higher purpose, and as you're going through training, remembering that, and remembering it's not about you anymore, and it's about your family that you've made now with the military. And you will. There's a lot of great service members that are in any branch, and really being excited about it and not allowing yourself to get down in the dumps when things get a little hard, because they'll get a little hard, and you'll beat yourself up a little bit emotionally. Everybody has it. whether it's, the expectations aren't meeting reality, or if it's just the actual process is just a little bit difficult, remembering that it's just a process to get you incorporated into a new way of life, a new way of thinking, and creating that camaraderie.
Very, very nice. Now, obviously you're not flying jets, but Top Gun 2 is upon us soon.
Very excited.
You are a naval aviator,
Yeah.
I must say. Any predictions on this movie?
Predictions. I'd say, I hope it influences a lot of people just like the first one did, right? There was
Right.
a big uptick in pilot applications and everything from the very first one, but honestly just getting more people excited and motivated about joining the military, and
Yeah.
kind of seeing that it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of fun to be had as well.
Yeah, and there's the travel is one of the great perks of it. It was interesting back in the 80s when Top Gun came out. It was filmed in like July '85. After that movie came out, the following July in '86, military went up by the tens of thousands in all branches. It was a very inspiring movie, a recruitment film, if we may. I know that Val Kilmer is making a small appearance in this film. Looking forward to this movie sooner than later. Hopefully it comes out soon. In the meantime, sir, thank you so much for the service and being on the Ricardo del California show, and look forward to diving with you again, sir.
Yeah, appreciate being here.
All right, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys soon. Thanks again for watching the show today, and if you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button. This is Ricardo del California wishing you a good day.